No one on that battlefield knew the world was about to pivot. In wind cold enough to slice skin, a sniper lay motionless for 17 hours. Heart slowed to a rhythm even she could no longer hear. No epic music, no heroic commands. Just one target in the scope, and millions of lives behind it. When the bullet left the barrel, it didn't just pierce flesh. It pierced the global balance of power. And in that instant, history veered in a different direction. The horizon burns orange through smoke. Cassidy Reeves counts artillery strikes. 4 in the last hour. The pattern means they're pushing forward, testing defenses. Drone rotors hum overhead, thermal cameras, sweeping in grids. Right now, she's a heartbeat, a set of calculations, a function waiting to execute. The rooftop beneath her radiates cold. Concrete dust coats her rifle, her gloves. She hasn't moved in 6 hours. The only motion is the slow expansion of her lungs, timed, measured, invisible. One target. One opportunity. One outcome that rewrites everything. Her scope is trained on a building 400 meters northeast, 3rd floor, corner window. Her spotter, Sullivan, lies 2 meters to her left. He hasn't spoken in 40 minutes. They've been a unit for 3 years. He knows when she's locked in. Wind shifts northeast at 4 kilometers per hour. She adjusts her scope 1/8 of a click. Her pulse, 42 beats per minute. Medical impossibility for anyone who isn't trained to slow their biology on command. The radio crackles. Overwatch. This is command. Target confirmation in 60 seconds. Stand by for green light. She doesn't acknowledge. Sullivan's breathing pattern changes. He's watching the drone grid. If one passes within 30 meters, they abort. Smoke drifts across her line of sight. Through the glass, movement, a shadow, then a figure. The radio. Overwatch. Target visual confirmed. Await final authorization. Sullivan's hand moves a signal. Thermal drone, 40 meters east, moving parallel. The artillery has stopped. The silence feels heavier than the explosions. She hears her own pulse. 40 beats. 38. 36. The target stands near the window now, partially obscured. The radio. Overwatch, you are green. Repeat, you are green for engagement. Wind northeast at 4 knots. Window is 90 seconds. She clicks once. The scope crosshairs settle on the window frame. Wind drift, gravity drop, the delay between trigger pull and impact. All of it happens between heartbeats. The figure steps closer. 80 seconds. They don't use names in briefings. The decision maker. The signature authority. 3 days ago, Cassidy sat in a bunker watching analysts point to probability matrices. They didn't say assassination, they said neutralization, strategic intervention. The target is the person who can activate systems, financial, military, diplomatic, that cascade into global realignment. The person whose existence keeps certain agreements intact and conflicts frozen. Remove that person, and everything thaws at once. The briefing officer Brennan laid it out. Target remains operational. 92% probability of regional escalation within 6 months. International intervention, 74%. Estimated casualties, 300,000. She paused. Target neutralized within current window. 68% probability of de-escalation. Estimated casualties, fewer than 5,000. Cassidy asked one question. Margin of error? 11%. But confidence tightens if we operate within 72 hours. After that, security protocols change. We lose the window. No backup plan, no second sniper. The intelligence window is fragile. If she doesn't execute, the target disappears into a security apparatus that doesn't offer second chances. And if she misses, the target goes underground. Security escalates. The entire situation hardens into something infinitely more dangerous. One shot. 72 hours ago, that felt abstract. Now, finger on the trigger guard, target 60 meters from her crosshairs. It feels like the weight of every life hangs on this moment. Sullivan's voice. Thermal drone clear. You've got the lane. The target moves closer to the window. Cassidy sees details: the jacket, the posture. Confident, unhurried. Someone who doesn't believe danger reaches this far. The radio. Overwatch. 60 seconds on your green light. Confirm status. She clicks once. Her training loops. Breathe, settle, acquire, engage. Don't think past the shot. But she's not a machine. She knows this bullet travels through political structures, military alliances, economic dependencies. It rewrites strategy papers across 3 continents. It ends someone who doesn't know they're standing in the last minute of their life. 40 seconds. Cassidy Reeves learned to shoot at 12. A retired Marine named Holt saw something in the way she controlled her breathing during archery. "You got a predator's patience," he told her. "Most kids can't sit still for 30 seconds. You could wait out a glacier." Her training stripped away hesitation. Thousands of scenarios designed to convert moral complexity into tactical clarity. They taught her, the target is not a person. The target is a function. Clean, geometric, no room for the weight of eyes or the shape of hands. But that was before her first live shot, a militia commander coordinating attacks on civilian infrastructure. She made the shot, clean, effective, then didn't sleep for 3 days. Not from regret, from recognition. The training could suppress hesitation, but couldn't erase the awareness that she just erased someone's future. Her commanding officer, Mercer, found her on the 4th day. "You think you're the first one to feel this? Every sniper worth anything carries it. The ones who don't feel it are the ones we retire early. You feel it because you're human, but you don't let it stop you, because being human also means understanding that sometimes one death prevents 1,000. She wanted to ask who decides which death prevents which 1,000. She didn't, because she already knew. There is no equation, just the choice, and someone has to make it. Right now, scope on a target who will never know her name. She's the one making it. Wind still northeast. Target near the window. Her pulse, 34 beats per minute. She thinks, I don't know this person. Don't know if they're cruel or kind, if they have children. But I know what happens if they live. And I know what happens if I miss. The radio. Overwatch. 30 seconds. Final wind check. Northeast, steady at 4 knots. You are clear for engagement. Her finger moves to the trigger. 20 seconds. The world compresses into a tunnel. Cassidy's vision narrows. Peripheral details dissolve. What remains? The scope, the crosshairs, the target. Sullivan's hand moves signal. Enemy patrol, 200 meters south, moving perpendicular. Not a threat yet. But time is tightening. The radio. Overwatch. Be advised. Drone activity increasing. You have 90 seconds before pattern shift. Recommend immediate engagement. She adjusts position by millimeters. Finds stillness again. The target is fully visible. Standing at the window, looking out at the burning city. Calm. Unhurried. Her crosshairs settle just below the collarbone. Center mass. Wind shifts. 5 knots now, gusting. She adjusts 1 click right. Heart. 32 beats per minute. The radio. Overwatch. 60 seconds. Thermal signature shows additional personnel entering target building. Window is closing. Confirm engagement. She clicks once. Sullivan whispers. Patrol turning east. If they sweep back, we're compromised. The target steps back from the window. Cassidy's breath catches. They stop. Turn. Someone else in the room. Brief conversation. The target returns to the window. 45 seconds. Final calculation. Range 408 meters. Wind northeast at 5 knots. Elevation 12 meters. Humidity 62%. Bullet drop compensated. Wind drift compensated. Probability of successful hit. 94%. The radio. Overwatch. 30 seconds. Sullivan. Drone inbound. 20 seconds. She hears it faint rotor whine, growing louder. If it passes overhead, their thermal signature lights up every enemy screen. Mission abort. The target is still at the window. Her pulse. 30 beats per minute. 15 seconds. The drone's whine grows louder. 10 seconds. Her finger on the trigger, feeling the edge of the brake. 5 seconds. The target turns slightly, profile visible. 3 seconds. She exhales half a breath. Holds it. 2 seconds. 1 second. She pulls the trigger. The rifle kicks, not hard, just enough to confirm the round is away. The sound is suppressed, muted to a mechanical cough that doesn't carry beyond the rooftop. But Cassidy feels it. The recoil traveling through her shoulder, her spine, settling in her chest like final punctuation. She doesn't move. Her eye stays fixed to the scope, tracking the target through the 400 meters of air between the barrel and the window. Time doesn't slow. That's a myth. Time continues at its normal pace. But her perception sharpens, captures details most people miss. The way the bullet's trajectory is invisible but present. A line drawn through space by physics and intent. The way the target is still standing, still unaware, still occupying a version of reality that has half a second left to exist. Then impact. The window shatters. The target drops. No sound, no scream, just the sudden absence of a standing figure, replaced by empty air and falling glass. Cassidy doesn't breathe. Not yet. Sullivan, low and fast. Confirmed, target down. Drone overhead in 3 seconds, we need to move. She pulls back from the scope, doesn't look at the window again, doesn't need to. The shot was clean. She knows it the way a musician knows, when a note lands perfectly, not because of thought, but because of the absence of wrongness. They move in synchronized silence, gear packed, rifle slung, 30 seconds to clear the rooftop, 40 seconds to reach the stairwell. The drone passes overhead, thermal camera sweeping the building they just left. They're already 2 floors down when the radio erupts. Voices, multiple channels, overlapping transmissions. Shots fired, northeast sector. Command, we have a situation. Building 7. Medical team to 3rd floor. Immediate. Lock down all exits. Initiate security protocol Delta. Cassidy and Sullivan keep moving. Down the stairwell, through a shattered hallway, into a basement tunnel that connects to the next building. Pre-planned exfiltration route, rehearsed in darkness until their bodies could execute it without thought. Above them, chaos. Below them, silence. They emerge 3 blocks away, in the rubble of a collapsed parking structure. A vehicle waits nondescript, engine running. The driver doesn't look at them, just opens the rear doors. They climb in. The vehicle moves. Not fast, not drawing attention. Just another piece of the city's damaged machinery, navigating broken streets towards safety. Cassidy sits in the back, rifle case between her knees. Her hands are steady. Her pulse is already climbing back to normal, 50 beats per minute now, 60, 70. Biology reasserting itself after the extreme suppression of the mission. Sullivan leans back, eyes closed. His breathing is controlled, but she can see the tension in his jaw. He's running the operation in reverse, checking for mistakes, gaps, exposure points that could compromise them later. She looks out the window. Smoke rises from a dozen locations. Fires that have been burning for days. The city looks like something already broken beyond repair. But she knows better. The real break just happened. 400 meters, 1 bullet, and now the cascade begins. The radio in her ear, different frequency now, encrypted. Overwatch, command, confirm exfil status. She clicks twice. Affirmative. En route to extract point. Copy. Stand by for debrief at Site Blue. ETA, 30 minutes. The vehicle turns onto a wider street. Somewhere behind them, sirens. Not for them, for the chaos they left behind. For the security team scrambling to understand what just happened. For the medics who are already too late. Cassidy closes her eyes. She doesn't feel triumph, doesn't feel regret. Just the strange hollow weight of knowing that she executed her function perfectly, and now the consequences belong to someone else. But she knows that's a lie. The consequences belong to everyone, including her. The extraction vehicle stops in a warehouse district 30 kilometers from the city center. Inside, concrete floor, single hanging light, and Kovacs, field operations coordinator, holding a tablet with real-time intelligence feeds. He looks up. Confirmed? Sullivan nods. Clean hit, target neutralized. Kovacs taps his tablet, pulls up satellite imagery. The target building is surrounded by thermal signatures vehicles, scrambled response teams. Full lockdown, Kovacs says. All communications ceased. Internal chatter confirms target is KIA. Cassidy sets her rifle case down. What's the reaction pattern? Kovacs swipes through screens. Exactly as expected. Command structures fragmenting. 3 factions already repositioning. No one wants to be caught flat when the power vacuum opens. How long until it goes public? Unknown. Could be hours. Could be days. Depends on who controls the narrative. He looks at her. You did your job. Now it's out of your hands. She nods. But the silence right now, this window between shot and announcement, is the most dangerous moment. When decisions get made in back rooms. When alliances shift. Kovacs' tablet chimes. He reads, frowns. What? Intel intercepts. 2 of the target's associates calling for immediate retaliation. They're claiming this was an external strike. That changes dynamics. Cassidy's chest tightens. How? If they frame this as foreign assassination, it gives them justification for escalation. We neutralize the person who could launch coordinated offensive, but we might have just handed them a rallying cry. Sullivan speaks. So we traded one war for a different one. Kovacs doesn't answer immediately. Not necessarily. The factions are divided. If we're lucky, they fight each other for control instead of uniting against a common enemy. And if we're not lucky? Cassidy asks. Kovacs' expression says everything. The radio crackles. Sight blue, this is command. Be advised, multiple state actors mobilizing diplomatic responses. UN, emergency session called. Recommend Overwatch remain in blackout protocol until situation stabilizes. Kovacs keys his radio. Copy. Overwatch will hold position. He turns to them. You're staying here until we have clarity. No external communications. No movement. Understood? They nod. Kovacs leaves. Cassidy sits, back against the wall. Her body registers the 17 hours, muscles stiff, joints aching. Sullivan sits across from her. Neither speaks. Then he says quietly, "You ever wonder if we're just moving pieces on someone else's board?" She doesn't answer, because she knows, and it doesn't change anything. Outside, the world reacts to a death it doesn't know happened yet. 6,000 kilometers away, in a conference room with no windows, 12 people receive the same classified briefing simultaneously. The target is dead. No one speaks for 10 seconds. Then questions begin. Confirmation source? Satellite imagery and human intelligence, cross-verified. Time of death? Approximately 43 minutes ago. Method? Single rifle shot. Sniper. Likely positioned in adjacent building. Sniper identity? Unknown. No recovery of personnel at suspected firing position. Director Paul Ashford, Intelligence Oversight, leans back in his chair. His face is carefully neutral, but everyone in the room knows what he's thinking. All right, he says. Let's run the models. What happens now? Dr. Helen Vargas, Strategic Analysis, pulls up a screen. Probability matrices, decision trees, cascading scenarios, 3 primary pathways. She begins. First, power vacuum leads to internal fracture. Coalition dissolves into competing factions. Conflict becomes localized and contained. Probability, 41%. Second pathway, coalition unifies under hardline successor, blames external actors for the assassination, uses it as justification for expanded operations. Probability, 34%. Third, chaos. No clear successor, no unified response, complete breakdown of command structure. Regional instability spreads beyond current borders. Probability, 25%. Ashford processes this. What's our optimal outcome? Pathway 1. If we can encourage the fracture without being detected. Pathway 2 is manageable if we can control the narrative. Pathway 3 is catastrophic no matter what we do. Another voice, General Marcus Webb, Joint Strategic Planning. We need to move on the narrative immediately. If they frame this as a foreign assassination, we lose control. Every state actor with interests in the region will start positioning for conflict. Ashford nods. Recommendations? Diplomatic channels, Vargas says. Quiet outreach to the moderate factions within the coalition. Offer them legitimacy if they commit to de-escalation. Simultaneously, we leak intelligence, suggesting the assassination was internal rival faction removing an obstacle. That's a gamble, Webb says. If they trace it back to us, they won't. Vargas interrupts. We've got 3 layers of plausible deniability. The sniper team is off-grid. No electronic signatures, no recoverable evidence, and the tactical window we exploited closes in 6 hours when their security protocols update. Ashford looks around the room. 12 faces, all carrying the weight of knowing that the decisions made in the next hour will ripple through millions of lives. Execute the narrative strategy, he says. Diplomatic outreach through established back channels, and get me a direct line to our counterparts in the Allied nations. They need to know this was coordinated, not rogue. The meeting dissolves. People disperse to separate rooms, separate secure lines, separate spheres of influence. In another building, another country, a similar meeting happens. Different faces, different languages, same fundamental calculation. How do we exploit this moment? Phone calls are made, encrypted messages sent, military assets repositioned not dramatically, not in ways that trigger alarms, but incrementally, carefully, preparing for multiple contingencies. In the UN Security Council, an emergency session convenes. Ambassadors take their seats, each representing governments that already know more than they're saying. Public rhetoric will be measured, diplomatic, but behind closed doors, negotiations are already underway. Trade agreements are being reconsidered. Defense treaties are being re-examined. Intelligence sharing protocols are being updated. One bullet, fired from a rooftop 400 meters from its target, has just redefined the strategic landscape, and the people who made the decision to fire it are sitting in a warehouse, waiting to find out if they prevented a war or started one. Cassidy wakes to rain on the warehouse roof. She didn't realize she'd fallen asleep. Her body, finally released from the extreme control of the mission, surrendered to exhaustion. She checks her watch. 4 hours since the shot. 4 hours since she eliminated a human being from existence. Sullivan is awake, sitting near the door, monitoring a small encrypted radio receiver. He glances at her when she stirs. "Anything?" she asks. Public announcement went out 20 minutes ago. Official statement says the target died from sudden medical complications. No mention of assassination. Cassidy sits up. Her muscles protest stiff from hours of immobility followed by hours of unconsciousness on concrete. "Medical complications," she repeats. "That's the narrative they're going with?" Sullivan nods. "For now." It buys time. Lets the various factions position themselves without immediate retaliation. Do they believe it? Does it matter? It gives everyone plausible deniability. The people who know the truth aren't the ones making public statements. She stands, walks to the small window. Outside, the rain is heavy, turning the rubble-strewn streets into rivers of gray water. The city looks even more broken in the rain. "You know what I keep thinking about?" she says. Sullivan doesn't answer. Waits. "I don't know their name, the target. I never learned it." "That's intentional," Sullivan says. "Makes it easier." "Does it?" He's quiet for a moment. "No, not really." Cassidy leans her forehead against the cold window. She thinks about the figure in the scope, standing at the window, looking out at the burning city. Calm, unhurried. Someone who had plans for tomorrow, for next week, for next year. All of it erased in the time it takes a bullet to travel 400 meters. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asks. Sullivan stands, walks over to her. "I think we did what we were ordered to do. I think the people who gave the order believe it was the right thing. And I think we'll never really know if it was, because we can't see the other timeline." "The one where I don't take the shot?" "Yeah. Maybe that timeline is worse. Maybe it's better. We'll never know." She turns to face him. "That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have." They stand in silence. The rain continues. Somewhere outside, sirens wail emergency response to some crisis that has nothing to do with them and everything to do with the world they just altered. Cassidy's radio chirps. Encrypted channel. She activates it. Overwatch. "This is command. Be advised, diplomatic channels are stabilizing. No immediate escalation detected. Recommend maintain blackout protocol for another 12 hours. Then proceed to extract Point Delta for debrief and redeployment." She clicks twice. Acknowledged. The radio goes silent. 12 more hours in this warehouse. 12 more hours of not knowing if the cascade they triggered will resolve into something manageable or explode into something catastrophic. Sullivan returns to his position by the door. Cassidy stays at the window. She thinks about the training, the thousands of hours designed to strip away hesitation, the psychological conditioning that converts moral complexity into tactical clarity. It works. She pulled the trigger without freezing, executed the mission with precision. But now, in the aftermath, the complexity returns, not as hesitation, as weight. She eliminated a human being, someone with thoughts, memories, relationships, someone who probably believed they were doing the right thing too, and she'll never know their name. Never know if they had children. Never know if they were cruel or kind. Never know if, in some different version of this story, they could have been the person who prevented the war instead of the person whose death was supposed to. The rain intensifies. Thunder rumbles in the distance. Cassidy closes her eyes. She thinks, I did my job. I executed the mission. I followed orders. And then she thinks, that's what everyone says. When she opens her eyes, Sullivan is watching her. You good? He asks. She nods. Yeah, I'm good. It's not entirely true, but it's true enough for now. 3 weeks later, the news analysis shows a different map. Cassidy watches it on a screen in a debriefing room. Her mission now part of a classified after-action report that will be studied by strategists for years. The coalition has fractured. 3 distinct factions, each claiming legitimacy, each positioning for control, but none unified enough to launch the offensive intelligence predicted. The regional conflict continues. Skirmishes, artillery exchanges, drone strikes, but not full-scale escalation, not the cascade that would have pulled in international forces and reshaped geopolitical alliances. The briefing officer, Garrett, with sharp eyes and measured words, walks through the analysis. Target neutralization achieved objective parameters, he says. Coalition fragmentation occurred within projected timeline. Escalation probability reduced from 92% to 18%. Estimated lives saved, 270,000. He pauses, looks at Cassidy. Textbook execution, one of the cleanest strategic interventions we've conducted. She nods. Garrett continues. Of course, the situation remains fluid. New power structures are emerging. Some might be worse than what we had, but for now, we've bought time. And in this business, time is the only currency that matters. The briefing ends. She walks through corridors that look the same as every military facility, sterile, efficient, designed to strip away context. Outside, the sky is clear. No smoke, no artillery. Just a normal, quiet afternoon in a place far removed from the battlefield. She thinks about the news coverage, the diplomatic analyses, the think pieces about regional stability and power vacuums. None of them mention a sniper. None of them mention a rooftop. None of them mention 17 hours of motionless waiting and a single shot that changed the trajectory of millions of lives. That's how it's supposed to be. Cassidy understands that. The mission succeeds because it's invisible, because the people analyzing the aftermath don't know there was a deliberate intervention. They think it was luck, or natural political fragmentation, or the inevitable result of internal tensions. They don't know someone aimed a rifle and pulled a trigger and rewrote the future. Cassidy walks to her quarters. Small, functional. A bed, a desk, a window that looks out at nothing important. She sits on the bed, takes out her phone, personal device, not operational, scrolls through messages from people in her life who have no idea what she does. A friend asking about meeting up next month. Her brother sending pictures of his kids. Her mother wondering if she's eating enough. Normal life. The kind that exists in parallel to the classified missions and strategic interventions and decisions that redirect history. She responds to each message. Brief, friendly, gives no indication that 3 weeks ago she ended someone's life to prevent a war. Then she sets the phone down, looks at her hands. Steady, no tremor, no visible sign of what they've done. She thinks about the target, still doesn't know their name, probably never will. She wonders if they had someone like this, someone asking them about meeting up, someone sending pictures, someone wondering if they were eating enough, probably. And now that someone is grieving, processing a loss that the public believes was natural causes, but that they might suspect was something else. Cassidy exhales slowly. She doesn't regret the shot. Can't afford to. Regret would break something essential in her ability to do this work. But she carries it. The weight of it. The knowledge that precision isn't just about hitting the target. It's about understanding that every target is a nexus of connections, relationships, futures that now won't happen. You don't erase that by calling it a mission. You don't erase that by saying you followed orders. You just carry it. And you decide if you can keep carrying it the next time someone hands you a rifle and a set of coordinates. 6 months after the shot, Cassidy Reeves is in a different country, on a different mission. This one doesn't involve a rifle. Reconnaissance only. Observation and reporting. She watches a convoy move through a mountain pass, notes the vehicle types, the security patterns, the timing. Then she leaves, extracts cleanly, files her report. Normal work. The kind that doesn't end with a bullet changing the world. But she knows that somewhere, analysts are reading her report, making assessments, building probability models. And maybe, in some future operation, someone else will be lying on a rooftop, scope on a target, finger on a trigger, and they'll be carrying out a mission that started with intelligence she provided. That's how the machine works. No single person controls it. Everyone just executes their function, contributes their piece, and the larger pattern emerges from the sum of all those individual actions. She used to find that comforting. The idea that responsibility is distributed, that no one person bears the full weight. She doesn't find it comforting anymore, because she knows that when you're the one pulling the trigger, the distribution doesn't matter. You're the one who has to live with the moment when a human being stops existing because you decided to execute your function. That night, in a hotel room in a city she'll leave tomorrow, Cassidy searches for news about the region where she took the shot. The headlines are different now. The coalition is completely fractured. 2 of the factions have signed a ceasefire. The third is isolated, weakened, no longer a regional threat. Analysts are calling it a natural evolution of internal tensions. Political scientists are writing papers about the inevitability of coalition collapse. Historians are already framing it as a case study in how unstable alliances fragment under pressure. None of them mention a sniper. None of them know that the natural evolution was triggered by a deliberate act of precision violence. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Cassidy closes the laptop. She thinks about the question that's been sitting in her mind for 6 months. If you had one shot that could change the world, would you take it? She knows her answer now. She took it, executed it perfectly, changed the trajectory of history in ways that most people will never understand. But the question isn't really about whether you take the shot. The question is, what do you do after? How do you live with the knowledge that you're a person who can make that choice? Who can look through a scope at another human being and convert them into a target? Who can pull a trigger and rewrite the future for millions of people who will never know your name? You don't get training for that part. You don't get a manual on how to integrate the person who does this work with the person who responds to messages from friends and family. You just figure it out. Or you don't. Cassidy turns off the lights, lies in darkness, thinking about tomorrow's location, the mission, the next function to execute. Tomorrow she'll move to the next location, the next mission, the next function to execute. But tonight, she's just a person lying in the dark, thinking about a shot fired 6 months ago and a name she'll never know. And she thinks, history is written by the people who give the orders and the people who suffer the consequences. But sometimes, just sometimes, it's written by a person lying motionless on a rooftop, waiting for the moment when a single decision changes everything. And that person doesn't get remembered, doesn't get monuments or headlines or recognition. Just the weight of knowing that the world pivoted on their precision, and the rest of history unfolded from there. Cassidy closes her eyes. The weight is still there. It always will be. But she's learned to carry it. And that, she decides, is the only answer she's going to get.